No, nothing exciting. Life's exciting.
Life is exciting. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So tell me, did you receive your book back from the printers?
I did. Here it is.
Yeah. Hold it still. Okay. That is an amazing front cover. Well done. Well done. Let me see the back. It's going to... And that is an amazing picture of you and your dog, hey?
Yeah. It's sort of real. It's real.
Oh, I thought it was an AI. Come on, AI must have improved that.
I found a spelling mistake in it today after proofreading it about 30 times. But anyway, that's by the by.
That's nice. So have you sat down and read it through?
No, not yet. No. So I popped one in the post to you today, so it'll be there whenever it gets there. So.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Thanks very much.
That's all good. Yeah, I don't know how long it'll take to get over there, but presumably, I don't know, a week or so, I guess. So.
Yeah, it's stuff that we bought from the East Coast, particularly from the Brisbane area. It's probably into the second week. So it takes just over a week. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, time will tell.
Yeah. Yes, it will. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. That I look forward to that. So.
Yes, so I can
ask you, how does you're busy with the first book, Genesis?
I am.
Have you come upon I think it's the 12 ladders to heaven?
Not yet. In fact, the study I'm doing is only on the first 2 pages. So I'm not even sure I'm going to get that far in. Let me just see. So really the course I'm doing at the moment, so it's a 15-hour course.
Yeah.
On Genesis, but basically it's about the cosmology.
Yeah.
So the cosmology of the author of Genesis, and there's also a lot of discussion about our current view of the cosmology. I tell you what, that scripture is just incredible.
You know, I can agree with you, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But you tell me why you think it's incredible.
Well, just the way that it's written. I mean, it's so poetic, and it's so multi-layered. And basically, the guy who's taking the class, his thesis is that if you can unravel the mystery of Genesis, it basically gives you the keys to the rest of the scriptures as to how to interpret and apply and all that sort of stuff. So, and there's even been some suggestion that Genesis was written after a number of the Old Testament books as a means of saying this is how you interpret these things.
Yeah.
It's just incredible, you know, like and he's really smart guy, this guy. Like, I just got utmost respect for the way that he teaches and that, but he basically just says, look, one of the real challenges, I might have even told you this last week, you know, the real challenges is this: we always try and import our view of the cosmos into what we're reading. He says, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
you know, and you know, and when you look at the words and the language they use and how they structure the, you know, the whole scripture is structured, and just how it's to be read and interpreted, and it's just absolutely blows my mind. It really does.
Yeah.
You know, and I just look at the language they use, like, you know, they sort of say, you know, that on, he says one thing that one of the big pitfalls that people often have with Genesis is they think it's a description of how the universe was created. And in one sense it is, but it's not like in a scientific sense. It doesn't attempt to describe, you know, the creation of the elements and the planets and all that sort of stuff. It's the creation of the environment in which humans came into existence.
Okay. Okay.
And you know, and one of the fundamental things which is really hard to get your head around and really requires a lot of faith, I think, is that as you go through that early part of Genesis, you know, the storyline that's used there basically says that humans are of such importance in this cosmos, so the whole universe, is that the universe, that they are central to the universe coming to its proper completion. And then you sort of think about our current view of the cosmology of humans living on this tiny little pale blue dot in the middle of nowhere, and you think, my goodness, how could that be?
Yeah.
But hey, yeah. But I just love the language, you know, like the way they talk about. They're systematically going through each day, you know, like, so, you know, like, you know, God, you know, you know, overcome the darkness through the creation of light, and that's not sunlight. That's the luminescence of, you know, God Himself
Right.
overcoming the darkness, because it was on day, oh, I'm only stretching my mind now, but I think it was on like on day 3 where they talked about the creation of the sun and the moon and the planets, and that, you know, so there's lots of things like that, and then they also talk about, you know, I think the Hebrew word is rakia, RAQIYA, which is like the dome. And then in Genesis it talks about the separation of the waters above from the waters below.
Mm.
Well, the interpretation, well, this guy anyway, and a lot of other scholars too, presumably, is that the reference to the waters is like is like, you know, the creation of order from chaos, you know, to create this, like, if you use your imagination, it's almost like a giant, you know, snow dome, you know, that,
Yeah.
you know, or the atmosphere sort of thing, you know, which, you know, so the waters above being separated from the waters below, and the waters below doesn't refer to the oceans, it refers to the chaos underneath,
Mm. Mm.
you know, and
Trying to use symbology to get a message across.
yeah, you know, and it throws a whole new window into the creation story,
Yeah.
you know, based on an ancient view of cosmology, you know, and the thing that I just love about it compared to modern view of cosmology is that the early view is all encompassing,
Mm.
whereas in the age in which we live, it's all about reductionism. We've got to break everything down into its smallest elements. where the early view was actually the opposite, is we want to describe the totality of what's occurring here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just divine. It really is, you know. So
Yeah.
you know,
Who's the author? Who is the author of Genesis?
Well, that's a long story apparently, because the analogy that this guy gives, because he was asked that question, like, you know, who was the author? And he said, well, that's a really hard question to answer. He says, because he says that the analogy is it's like a family quilt. He said there's lots of bits and pieces which are written by different generations, which are woven into into the text as we sort of know it now. He says, so if you think about, you know, our grandma made this quilt and this family quilt, but when she made this family quilt, she used the material here and material there, and those pieces of material were from like her grandparents, and you know, so it's like a compilation of many generations, you know.
Yeah, but somebody must have put it together. You know, it must have been a grandma that collected all the
Oh yeah, for sure.
pieces, and I guess nobody knows. But you know, with the
it's like a poetry though. It's really written like poetry. You know, it's just
that comes back to what I was telling you last week about the books that I'm reading at the moment. Okay, that the tablets are written in poetry. Okay, and you've got to have a consciousness or a level of consciousness to really get any benefit from it. Okay, then it means something to you, and it talks. The author in the book that I told you about or showed you last week, it talks about all the old religions, okay, including the Jewish and the Hinduism and others. They were all started through the writings of those tablets, okay, coming from those tablets, including, as I say, the Old Testament, and that's why he refers to, you know, the ladder with the 12 steps to heaven, and that is in Genesis, and but it also came from the tablets, but in a different format. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how I'm piecing together clearly from what you are reading and saying and studying to what I'm reading, and with my link to Logos, okay, and Moya.
Absolutely, yeah.
And thinking that, you know, Thoth, you know, and Hermes Gistus was Moya, and so the knowledge now is coming out in a different format. I was reading just before we came online together, the Logos website. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And on the front page, there's really interesting references there to what I'm reading by the authors in the tablet. So it's really fitting together nicely, and I'm excited about, you know, your input from what you've got there and my input, and how it's moving forward in a really interesting way. And so, yeah, to keep on sharing. Yeah.
It's one of those things though, like, you know, and you have to be careful your imagination doesn't run away wild and that, but I just keep on sort of thinking about, you know, what it means to be human. You know?
Yeah.
You know, and everything, you know, according to the studies, says it's actually much bigger than you realize.
To be human. What did you have in mind?
I didn't have anything in mind. It's just what they've been saying.
Yeah.
But as the old saying goes, to whom much is given, much is expected as well. And yeah, and that just sort of reminds me just how important it is to do this study, to learn from it, to live it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So how's your reading going? Like, are you getting any insights there from your perspective? Or?
Yeah. An interesting thing occurred yesterday. Was Alma Lee of Logos in Pretoria in South Africa. I've been linking with her, as I told you last week. I don't know how much I told you, but I didn't know what Trismegistus, the 3 times great, was. Did I speak about it last week?
No, don't think so.
I don't think that. Then it must have been afterwards. Yeah. And he Trismegistus, or what the Greeks called Hermes, okay, and so often known as Hermes Trismegistus, he wrote prolifically using information that just wasn't available anywhere in the world, okay. And so, one of his previous incarnations was Thoth. Call him whatever you want to, a god, or and the tablets that he wrote, the secrets of life and of being human, and were written just a long time ago. Let's say that. Okay. The scientists are saying 35,000 years ago, but I don't go along with a time strength. But anyway, it's sorry, I lost my train of thought now. What was I saying?
Just in terms of the incarnations and that.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Alexander Library that Hermes Trismegistus he created from this information that nobody else had at the time, anywhere and any time previously. He wrote every type of industry that there possibly was. He wrote about it. Okay, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking about astronomy, or astrology, or farming, or whatever. Okay, and so that was Moya. That was Moya Chalubi's incarnation, and I didn't understand. That's what I was. I didn't understand what the 3 times great. When you look in history books, you see Trismegistus 3 times great. Okay. And I didn't know what that was. Okay. I could speculate as much as the author that I was reading was speculating. Okay. He said, it could be 3 incarnations, and he gave some other, which clearly didn't gel with me at all. And I wanted to know what the 3 times great was. So I sent a message to Alma Lee in Pretoria, Logos, and I thought, well, if she doesn't know, she'll pass it on to Moya. But she did know, okay, and it's the 3 times great is the 3 aspects of God, okay, and Logos writes them as the isness, the nowness, and the here-ness. Okay, and you can interpret that in various ways, but that's very simple when you think about it. And that's, so he was an incarnation of those 3 aspects of God. Okay, and so he had available to him all sorts of information, and well, all information, in fact. And so he started what is still going to be called the World Revolution. Okay. And that was the start of it. The library in Alexander, which was eventually destroyed by 3 different religious groups at different times, including the bizarre Christians that didn't want anything other than their belief systems. Okay. But then so did the Romans also destroyed part of it, and it was rebuilt and so on. And then, of course, the Muslims came along, and so they all had their share in destroying that library. Okay. And then the interesting aspect, and I'm sort of digressing on purpose at the moment, we'll perhaps come back to the library. You know, in the Bible, it talks about the Ark, what's it, the Ark of the Covenant? Okay. Have you covered anything in that in your study?
No, just briefly.
Okay. And you know what it was, okay, and probably what it is, okay, because it was a physical thing, okay, but I don't want to go there having a discussion on it, which I think we could do at another time, but I think it'll be very interesting. But the Ark of the Covenant survived. It was in the library in Alexander, and it was taken out and taken to the relatively formed new Himalayan mountains, okay, and put under guard, okay, by whoever were the monks that were in charge at that stage, okay, and there's a theory that today it still survives, and there's still a monk that won't allow anybody into the room where it is. Okay. That's, I guess, you take that from whence it comes, from an author who's been there but wasn't allowed into the room. But anyway,
because the ark was always in the inner sanctum of the temple, wasn't it?
Always, you see, and so the mystery is what was or is in it. Okay,
because it represents the intersection of heaven and earth, doesn't it?
Right. And you know, we get back to our theories of, you know, above so below, below so above. And the secret lies in that aspect, but the secret also lies in the writings of the tablets. And anyway, coming back to the library, when it was destroyed, the information had already spread, particularly from North Africa into Europe. And what happened with that information, and I'm going to say, unfortunately, okay, they never grasped really that this was now the revolution to transform the earth into humans that were spiritual, okay, and that cared for one another, and that did things for one another, and they took that information, and the Industrial Revolution resulted, okay, where people en masse came off the farms, and factories were started, and children.
I mean, at the high level, that's really what Christ represents, doesn't it? Is the complete human.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, and one can understand that because he was, in the biblical terms, the Son of God. Okay, so what he represented was what God, represents or wanted us to be represented. So we really had a really, really good example. And so what did we do? We cut off his head. We hung him.
Nailed him to a cross. That's right.
Nailed him, yeah. And so that's what happened to Hermes' writings and things. It was taken and it was through the factories and things that instead of Africa being the birthplace of the world revolution, okay, it became the continent that was enslaved and cut up into different sections and so on, by the Europeans and the British and the Portuguese and the Spanish and so on, and they took people and just put them into these factories in Europe, all over the place, and so that everything had to be put on hold, okay, and so our consumeristic society that we're now in is an outcome of that. Well, yeah, that knowledge that was given to it, that we weren't ready, we weren't at the right level of consciousness to be able to accept that and build on it for the benefit of every human being on planet Earth. So now we have a different definition of what is human. But Christ represented it, and Hermes wrote about it, and wrote practically how to, from every single field. There wasn't a field that he didn't write about, and we as humans, we just kicked it. But now we've got it starting all over again. Okay, and this is obviously many thousands of years later. Okay. He has now incarnated again, okay, as Moya Chulubi, Logos. And the interesting thing, I mentioned earlier about the three aspects of Trismus Gistos, the isness, the here-ness, and now it's been transformed, okay? It is now, the three aspects are called three something else in the, which is now what Moya represents on being God, if you like. Okay, wouldn't say that in public too quickly because you'd get cut down into pieces. But it's now the world government. Okay, the world teacher, and I just forget what the third aspect was. The world teacher, world government. Oh, the world warrior. Okay? Those are now the three aspects that have been transformed from the isness, the here-ness, and the now-ness. Okay, and that's where the foundations are being laid again. And this time the information has started like at, whereas before, let's say that with the libraries of Alexander and all the writers that went there were at like, let's say, university level, is now started at nursery school level. Okay. And so he's written a lot of books, which he, as you know, hasn't published.
Yeah.
Okay? And just printed them. And I think I've got most of them. And I've even got the African Renaissances. I've even got, I see he signed it as well, which is interesting. Signed my copy anyway. Must have just been in the right place at the right time. And I'm finding now that book is talking about the things that I'm reading and with regards to the tablets and other things that were found in the pyramids, I'm finding now in Moya's writings, but in a very, as I say, simple way. So anyway, you asked me a question, and so that's what I've been reading and doing and learning. Okay.
Doesn't it just highlight the importance of this constant study and inquiry and having an openness of mind, and when you see or read something, you think, oh my goodness, I have no idea what they're talking about, or that just seems, doesn't seem to make sense or whatever.
Yeah.
You should view it as an invitation to keep looking, rather than just say, oh, well, that's just the mystery of God.
I agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. That is the key. Even if you just contemplate on it, okay? Yeah. Just think about it. Sit, relax, and think about what on earth was that, okay? What does it mean? Put it out there. Put the question out there. Definitely, we're all connected. As above, so below. Okay, we are connected. We just close the doors and block that off, mostly mentally, because we believe we'll never know, or we can't do that. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's quite awe-inspiring and exciting and all sorts of things, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Fascinating.
At the same time, I am in contact through my oldest daughter with Dr. Sakina Haramsa. Dr. Sakina Haramsa, basically between Cape Town and Port Elizabeth. She lives in the forested area there, and does a lot of traveling and a lot of healing and good work all over South Africa particularly, but she's also been to India and helped Indians in her way, and it's also an absolute miracle that I've come in contact with her, and I send her audio messages at least once a week, and she answers them with audios on Telegram, and I'm getting such a lot of knowledge about myself, okay? And she just shares freely, and I'm just so grateful. I mean, and sometimes it's often just simple things that I just don't know, and hasn't come across my health and healing, let's say, platform from all the doctors and things that I've written about and studied over the years. This is like just simply new. And
see, it seems to me that these rare individuals are really no different than like the early authors of the scripture and so on, in that they just have a different worldview. They have this holistic view, whereas modern medicine, as you and I know, is all about reducing things down, and separating things and cutting things up and
breaking. And finding a particular ingredient and then making money selling that ingredient, which itself is of no value unless you've got the other ingredients around. You can't take an ingredient out of broccoli and say, this is what you buy now. You don't have to eat broccoli. You can just eat this one chemical ingredient, and it doesn't work that way. You've got to have broccoli.
That's right. I mean, the science of modern medicine is really just about trying to unscramble eggs, isn't it, really?
Yeah. It's a good analogy, that. You're on form, eh? Your analogies. I'm looking forward to reading your book when it arrives again. I mean, I read chapter for chapter, but it was different, and I want to see how it all comes together. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm really pleasantly surprised. I mean, I learned so much from just the process. So.
Yeah. I mean, from this Dr. Sakina today, I mean, just taking today, because it's just happened an hour or two ago. She's right at the beginning, she spoke about the importance in my healing of how important hydration was, okay, and water. But the water needs to be pure, okay, so that's fine. Once you've got filtered water, and you then add a little bit, a few grains of salt to every bit of water you drink, okay, and that is important for your hydration, okay, and that's fine. And then today it was, if you're going to drink your water, drink it. As you can see, I've got my glass of water with me here. I used to always, because I knew I had to drink water, okay, I was looking to drink 8 glasses of water a day, and I would put my alarm on my phone, and it's on the hour, I've got to drink a glass of water. So I'd go and get a glass, and historically, without any salt in it, it was just water, filtered water, and I drink the whole glass standing next to the container I got it out of. Now she tells me, when you're going to drink it slowly over the next hour, okay, but also drink it sitting. Don't drink standing. Okay? So these are little things that I'm picking up from her. I mean, you must just imagine this now over the last 4 weeks that I've been in contact with her, how much information I've gathered. And
that's really interesting, though, because I can remember, I think it was Sadhguru who said, one of his comments, like lots of these enlightened people, they just said there's little throwaway lines.
Yeah.
But he made the comment I can recall really clearly. He said, you should never eat food standing up.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, same thing. Same thing. Yeah. But I guess in a way, that comes naturally. I don't know, you sit down at the dining room table.
Oh, yeah, I was just sort of thinking about
how
many, in corporate life, how many functions you'd go to and they'd have finger food and everyone's standing up eating this food.
I know. Yeah.
No wonder the corporate's fucked up.
So, and I think another time what I've done, I've taken all her audios, because it's mishmashed with my feedback and my comments. I wanted it all to just her stuff. So Sue doesn't use Telegram, so I've opened a Telegram account in her name, and I've just transferred all the audios of Dr. Sakina Harmsat to that. So I've got them running, and as you know, with well, I don't know if, but with Telegram anyway, it just goes from one audio to the next audio to the next audio. You don't actually have to click it. So my idea is that, and I've already started, listening to it, taking notes in order to change my lifestyle. The biggest problem that I've had historically is, I take something like Dr. Gundry, and you do that, and then he says, you put lots of olive oil over everything, okay, and you would put lots of olive oil over everything, and now you get into that habit, okay, and then slowly over the months and years as they come and go, you just automatically put olive oil over anything. Okay, that's not a good thing. That's not a healthy thing. But as I've turned out in, later on. But the point is to get into a habit, a good habit, is not easy. Okay.
No,
you can document things down and so on, but it's not easy. I mean, you mean to drink water, right throughout the day and to have 8 glasses of water, but to get into that habit, okay, I use, alarms on my cell phone. So every hour reminds me to fill my glass up with water, okay? And so I'm getting into that habit now of being able to drink. And she also says you must drink right up until you go to bed as well, okay? Because I was stopping a few hours beforehand because I thought I was getting up at night and peeing at night because I was drinking, But if you drink pure water, you can drink it right up until you go to bed and it won't affect your peeing at night.
It's incredible stuff, water, isn't it? It's hard to, like most things, I guess, it's hard to fathom what it really is, isn't it? So.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And now our bodies are 70% water, and the planet is 70% water. It's just amazing. I mean, we can also, our atmosphere has got masses of water in it. So it's, and you were talking earlier about what they were saying in Genesis as well. You mentioned water.
Yeah, the water's above and the water's below.
Yeah. And so it's absolute basic stuff for every aspect, for creation and for getting yourself healthy and keeping yourself healthy. The top of the list. It's the most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of, you have a sort of a realization that what a privilege it is to experience this, isn't it?
Yes. I am so grateful that I have recovered so well with regards to my stroke, and and I think it's only about 8 months ago or something that I had the stroke, or 9 months ago, and it's when I see other people, and I do, and I've been in contact because once you have a stroke and people know, they say, oh, my father had a stroke and blah blah blah, and they're all really quite handicapped. I'm grateful that it was for me just a wake-up call, that making me focus again on the reality of life, which is the same above as it is below. I had it down below, and it's waking me up to reality of what's above. Just to use the analogy that we.
No, it's incredible, isn't it? Yeah, and just that realization alone, makes you, when you go for a walk, or when I do anyway, go for a walk, you just see everything in a completely different light.
Yeah. Yes, you do. Absolutely do. Absolutely do. And it's really so beautiful now with going for a walk. I'm slowly stepping up again, getting back to what I was walking before. And
do you still experience discomfort in your legs? Or?
Depending what shoes I'm wearing. Okay. I've got sandals which are particularly uncomfortable to walk in. Okay. The arch support in the sandal is rather overpronounced. Okay. And so, yeah, then I've got like sports shoes that have a little support, and they're fine. And then I bought some what they called diabetic shoes, okay, which really didn't work out very well for me. They were also overpronounced. So I took them back, and they suggested insoles, and I could test them, okay. So they had a whole lot of different, they had about 10 different of these, do you call them insoles? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then I found the one that really worked, okay, where I could put them inside my existing shoes, and I could walk with probably 50% of any of the pain I've ever had in my car. So it's a lot reduced. And so that's what I use for walking now. And but coming back to the walking, at this time of the year, and I'm also looking right now out of the window and seeing it right outside my window, are bushes with little flowers on them. And I've got it within about 1 meter of my window, this beautiful white flowers. It's actually a jasmine that just seems to flower all the year round. It's just amazing, beautiful. But there are lots at this time of the year in Western Australia, particularly.
Well, spring's just about here.
Yeah, but this is actually, they're all winter flowers. They all come out in winter.
Okay.
You know, and they're certainly there in spring, and more come out in spring. But these come out soon as the rains start in winter in Western Australia, you know, because got a Mediterranean climate different to you in so yeah, interesting. Although you've had a lot of rain in winter, haven't you?
Has been a bit wet, yeah. Yeah, it's really strange weather patterns again. I mean, look at the horrible firestorms over in Hawaii.
Yeah, those Hawaiian are so interesting, Don. I think if you're interested in having a discussion on it, I think it might be worthwhile, but it might not be up your alley. But they're unnatural. They're unnatural, okay? And I was looking at photographs of some of the fires, for example, and it was started. A total circle. They were started as a total circle. That's natural, okay? You know, and they were started in the indigenous part of Hawaii, where only indigenous people own property, okay? And the government of the United States doesn't own that property, okay? And they've been trying to take the property back, and they haven't been able to. You know, these are things that I start thinking about. And you know how evil humans are at the moment, okay?
For sure.
The dark side, especially those. Anyway, we won't mention names, and so yeah, and so that is really it's horrible that fire, and as I say, it doesn't seem natural at all. So suffer, but then you know when people suffer, then they give in. That's what it's like. You know?
Yeah, well, help becomes conditional.
Yeah. And if there are, I'm not saying there are, but if there are satanic forces involved in that whole process, then they enjoy the pain of people burning to death.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
And the screaming and shouting that goes with that, dying in pain.
Yeah, they seem to feast off it, don't they?
They do. That's their energy. Okay, that's their energy. It's they need it. That's why they needed wars. Okay, and no difference with the Ukrainian and Russian war. Okay, they needed wars. Okay, and they need the African people to suffer. You know, with lack of food and stuff. So. Yeah, goodness me, we're jumping around. I think we must stop, otherwise we will get up to next.
We'll make ourselves depressed.
I don't get depressed when I think about those things because we're aware of world reality, you and I.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we don't get emotional about when people get tortured, and we don't like it, but somehow it doesn't have that emotional effect, and like the start in getting the Emerald Tablets books that I'm reading, and putting them all together with logos. I get very emotional. I get excited about that. You know, that's when I get emotional, when it's got to do with spiritual stuff. Okay?
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, or with my healing, even with Dr. Sakina, I get, wow, you know, that's how I drink water. I mean, yeah. Anyway, why don't we call it a day before?
Very good. Very good. Well, it's good to see you so excited. You know, so.
Yeah, likewise. And I look forward to your book, man. And thank you again for sending it. I appreciate it.
No, of course.
Let you know the day it arrives. Okay.
Very good. Okay.
Okay, Don.
Take care.
Cheers, man. Bye.
Bye.